Dr. Horvath said even the government or the Thai Stock Exchange should use a stakeholder model to create organization image because it helps the people to see which registered companies truly pay back benefits to the society.
And globally, in the year 2008, we seen the global economy in a very bad shape when the U.S. economy went down, when Lehman Brothers, the U.S. investment bank collapsed, then it took down the whole economy, and there's no exception. Even the Chinese economy, which is half the way around the globe, was badly hit by the U.S.-led global crisis. So what does it mean, in your opinion, how this globalization?
Well, number one, I think we live in a transformed world.
Yes.
It's not only a changed world prior from what it was before 2008, but it's really a transformed world. That means that the world economies are much more well integrated than we ever imagined. So that means today that crises in Greece have repercussions across the world almost simultaneously. Some major actions by the Chinese government have the same action on the same influence with the global economy. So that's one. The other one is, I don't think that given that the crisis was really initiated by the financial services sector in the US and influence of global economies, I don't think that governments or regulatory agencies are going to let corporations make that happen in the future. Corporations either have to learn to self-regulate themselves, not to focus on the short-term profits only, or the shareholders, but more balanced way on stakeholders. All they will be regulated. Probably what will happen, corporations will adjust. The stakeholder model will be the predominant model for running corporation successfully for medium to long term. But at the same time, more regulatory frameworks will emerge, how to run financial services organizations, how to run corporations which, for example, maybe have major impact on the environment through carbon tax or whatever.
You talk about self-regulation in the corporate world. What are the incentives then?
To be able to, the interesting concept is self-regulation could only mean to run the corporation properly through a balanced stakeholder model. Don't emphasize short-term profits and shareholders only. So this balanced stakeholder model would be enough for not to create a crisis.
But we have the stock market, we have Wall Street, we have the stock exchange of Thailand with trading stock of your publicly traded companies every day and share price moving every minute.
Good point. And the quarterly expectations of the stock market obviously influence corporations, but maybe the legislation has to change in the context of corporate governance, which already happened in Holland. That you are not really a shareholder so long you don't keep, you're not an owner of a corporation. You cannot vote unless you keep your shares for a full year or beyond. Maybe it should be even longer. So speculation cannot come into the picture, which forcing corporations to respond to quarterly results. That's why family enterprises actually better off.
You are talking about a new set of regulation on stock ownership and stock trading?
Yes, yes. Well, again, you know, a corporation has the right to still have, in spite of the expectation of the stock market on a quarterly basis, have the right still to make the decision. And yes, the stock market will be sometimes influenced, but make decision based on the medium to long-term health and performance of the corporations.
You mentioned about the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. Is that one first step to begin with? Right. If the stock market wants to...
The Dow Jones Sustainability Index clearly have been establishing now over a decade.
How many years? A decade?
I think about a decade. That economic issues are not coming isolated from social, political and environmental. And corporations which are integrating those three perspectives are delivering, ironically, higher shareholder value in medium to long term than corporations which emphasize short-term profits only. So it's good management, good business. Yes,
and
the stock market might penalize you very short term because you didn't perform, but you will recover. You come back later. Because in medium to long term, you will have a stable performance. And that's what the real shareholders is interested in.
Can you repeat the three things that the Dow Jones Sustainability Index focus on? What
I
are the
focus on economic issues.
economic issues,
It's one. Social, political, second.
social and political
And the
issues,
third one is environmental.
the environment?
Right.
So if you take into account these three factors, you may not get a very quick share increases. But later on in the medium and long term, the values, the shareholders' values of these companies are much better than those who ignore these three important things. Is that correct?
I would even put it in the following way.
Yes.
More well-educated shareholders will recognize,
Yes.
if empirically we have evidence, that the triple bottom line, economic, social, political, and environmental issues in an integrated way provide higher shareholder value, even in medium to long term, than only having short-term profits and then nothing in the future.
So I guess one suggestion for the stock exchange of Thailand and other stock markets in ASEAN countries may be to follow the path of the U.S. market, where they have the Dow Jones Sustainability Index
Right.
for stock that focus on the environment, on the economic, and on the social, political issues.
And to emphasize corporations who deliver profits, but also positive situation for all stakeholders, medium to long term, and not only short-term profit emphasis.
And looking forward, you think this model will replace what we have been seeing in the past many decades? The stakeholder model.
I think that the stakeholder model or elements of it have been around a while. Many enlightened corporations realize that they have to combine economic, social, political, and environmental issues. Dofasco in Canada is a good example of a corporation which always practice it since I have get to know them about 20 years ago. And I think the Dow Jones Sustainability Index listing quite a few of those firms who realize it on their own and have been doing it for quite long.
So I understand that you have been the dean of the business school at the York University in Canada for more than 20 years, right? You may be one of the longest serving deans in business school. What is your observation over the past 2 decades of this development?
I have been dean for 23 years at the
Yes.
Schulich School of Business at York University. Yeah, maybe I am the longest serving in one location. But what I, over the years, noticed, obviously, that already in the past it was clear that the triple bottom line, or the balanced stakeholder model, is good management. Our school started engaging in, for example, starting with creating a chair in ethics, that corporations should be making ethical decisions. Don't mislead any stakeholder groups. Don't try to teach them properly, whoever they are. That was one of the elements. One of the, and I developed a chair in that in 1991.
Yes.
In 92, I developed the first chair in sustainability, or in that time it was called environmental issues. Later on, corporate social responsibility. So I have a quite large group of faculty, which over the years has been working on those issues. And we certainly teaching how to practice the triple bottom line, how to practice the stakeholder model, and try to get corporations. Certainly our graduates are going to try to make corporation focusing on medium to long term in a balance.
But I remember that in the older days, when we talk about MBA schools, we talk a lot about profit maximization. We talk about M&A, mergers and acquisition. We talk about hostile takeover. We talk about quick profits. All these things are the past already.
Well, it's not only profit, it's the value of the corporations and the kind of value shareholders can have in the corporations. And what is clear based on the empirical evidence now through Dow Jones Sustainability Index among others, that if you do emphasize the triple bottom line or a balanced stakeholder model over medium to long term, ironically you also create the highest shareholder value. So it's good business. That's what corporations should be practicing.
And I think one of the biggest challenge coming up for China is that their companies will adopt what you are talking about. They have the tendencies to do that.
I am just coming from China, actually.
Yes. Yeah. What's your observation?
That it's quite clearly accepted in China. There's a short-term profit orientation, and disregarding the environment is not acceptable. That increasingly, either the government will enforce it, or corporations have to deal with that more properly. So again, Chinese corporations, just like any other corporations, any part of the world, have to apply the triple bottom line or a balanced stakeholder model. That's the way a responsible enterprise in the future have to act.
So you mean Chinese company and many of the world's biggest company will come from China. They will be caring more about the social, the environmental, and beyond the economic issues.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Otherwise, people will react. Let's not forget all stakeholder groups also becoming more well-educated. And it's a more integrated world. You cannot hide anywhere in the world and destroying the economy in other parts of the world. Your home base will force you to act properly.
The interconnected global economies
Yes.
is obvious. And what about your observation for Thai companies and company in ASEAN countries, since we're going to have the ASEAN Economic Community in the year 2015 as a single market and single production base?
It would be great. It will enlarge your market. You will have corporations which can rely on larger markets and further develop the corporations, and then you can reach out from that common base to the rest of the world, just like corporations have been doing in larger economies and then succeeding. I think it will be a very positive development for Thailand and the whole region.
So, Dean Horvath, thank you for your time, for joining our program.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.
Follow Towards 2015 open up to the ASEAN market every Wednesday and Thursday from 10:30 to 11 p.m. on ASEAN TV. Also, keep connected online via Facebook with Towards 2015 only on ASEAN TV.